Hello everyone, my name is Yulia and today in this video we'll be working with custom time filters in Kojic App Builder. So imagine the situation when in your application you have a data collection and you need it to be displayed with some specific custom time filter. So let's try to create these filters on our simple example with a to-do list application. So now we have an empty application called Working with Time Filters, and let's try to do new page which we'll call a to-do list. On this page what we will store is simply an info about some task, and also we will store the date and time for its deadline, and also we need some select field to specify the current state of our task. And here we can add some set instances because they will be some basic like in process, or the another option will be when the task will be done. So let's try to save our app and look how does this form for a to-do list will look on our application. So let's go publishing. And now opening it, and let's try to add some tasks to our to-do list. So the task will be to send a report, for example. Let's set deadline tomorrow like at 9 a.m. and the state will be still in process. So saving our task, we now see it in our list, and what I will do now, I will fill in our list with different tasks to then work with different filters to manage and organize those data collection items. And as you can see, I have added different types of tasks like for June and for July and also of different states. And let's try to create another page to manage them and filter them for a different time periods. So we create a new page in our application which will be called Managing To-Do List. And what we need to see on this page is first of all a place to select a managing period. So it will be the period where we will check if the task has deadlines in. And also let's add some default set instances for this select, and the one could be, for example, this month. For us to display the deadlines for tasks we need to do for this month. And also the another one could be a custom, where we'll specify the date from and date to, and we'll see all the deadlines in this period. But to do this, we can create date inputs for user to specify those custom date from and date to period frames. But actually, if our user will select a managing period like this month, he doesn't need to see all these custom fields. So what we do, we set these fields hidden. And another thing we want to show and display on this page is actually our list of to-dos. So we add a collection on our form which will be of the type to-do list, and here we will display the tasks which are according to our filter. And now we can add this to-do list table on our app page. We can even edit those page and select some specific view, for example, to see the task and the state first and then the deadline. So let's save and now try to open and check how does our form looks like now. And now we can open and see our newly created page. So the first one is to create a to-do list, and the next one is for managing. And here we have a place to specify a filter, and here will be the result. But first of all, what we need to do, we need to handle our choice of a managing period. To do this, let's go back to our managing to-do list page, and now for this managing period field, we need to create an action on field change. So as soon as user will be changing this field and selecting some value, we will write our code according to this choice. So now what we need to do, we need to first of all check if our managing period value is equal to sum of the seed instances we has created. So we need to fetch a seed instance for a managing period, and we have two options like this month. Let's call it the same way. And also we fetch a seed instance for a custom period. So we fetch custom and again give it the same name. And now what we do, if our managing period is selected to be this month, we will write one specific piece of code, and in case it will be equal to the custom managing period, let's try to copy this block and simply change the period for a custom. So in other case, else if this statement is true, we will write another block of code. First of all, the first thing we need to display on our page when a custom period is selected is the fields to specify the date from and date to. To do this, we have a special functions which are client functions which set the fields hidden or show hidden fields, and it takes as an input the ID of the fields which we want to set hidden or to show them on our form. And as our date from and date to fields don't have any ID, we need to go back to our form to click on these fields and to set an ID, let it be dates. So then we will use these IDs to set these fields hidden or visible. Dates again. And now after saving, what we can do, we can call this function. So we need to show our hidden values if our managing period is custom, and the IDs are as we have specified are the dates. In other case, if they have already been showed on our page, but we have changed our choice to this month's custom period, what we need to do, we need to set them hidden again. So we again select our function and set as a parameter again the ID dates that we have set. And let's now save and publish our application to check if this functionality for these two fields is really working. So now let's open our application to test this block of code. So we go to the managing to-do list page, and here, selecting a managing period equal to the custom one, we have two fields to specify those periods, but if we change it to this month, we don't see any fields. Great. The next step we need to do is to display the tasks in our table according to selected managing period. To do this, let's add a button on our page for user to display a tasks in a table on click on this button. So we will give it a name like show tasks, and also we create a special action for a click on this button, and we'll also call it show tasks, for example. And now we are again redirected to the code block editor. So what we need to do in this block, we need to iterate through the whole to-do list and to select those tasks which have a deadline in those specific period the user will select. So to go through all the tasks, we need to use a for each block. So for each task in a stream of our collection, and the collection is actually a to-do list as we created it before. So for each task in the stream of this to-do list, first of all, we will check what is our actually selected managing period. So we get the value of a managing period first of all, and we check if it's equal to sum of the custom seed instances. So we fetch it for the managing period, and we have two options to fetch for this month, and also we need to fetch the same way for a custom period. So let's create it with a name this month and custom period. And now we do check if our managing period is at this month, we will have one check, and in other case, else if our managing period is equal not to the month but to the custom period, we will have another block of code. Let's start with at this month. So we need to check if a deadline in a task is bigger than a first day of current month and last day in a current month. So first thing we need to do is we need to get a current date actually. So we create a local date. We didn't get it, we create it. So we create a local date variable. Let's call it current date. And let's set the value of this current date equal to the result of a now function, which will return the current date. But we need to specify a time zone, and we will get the basic default one for our application with this function and set it as a parameter of a now function. Now we have a current date. But we need to compare our task deadlines to the first day of month's date and for the last day. So what we do, we create a new local date variables. The first one to store the date of the first day of month, and another one to store the date of last day. And we set the first day date equal to the copy of a current date. So we get the value of a current date, copy it, but we set the day of month equal to the first one. So we specify one out here and copy it out there. And the same steps we need to do for a last day, but we cannot simply copy and set here some number because we don't know if the month will have a 31, 30 or 28 days. Therefore, we will use another block, which is actually a plus block. So we will add to the first day of month value the amount of time equal to 1 month. And this is how we will get the last day of month's date. And now we are ready to compare the deadline from our tasks and its date to a first day and last day of month. So let's create again a local date variable, in this case to store the value of our deadline date. And we set this local date value to our task deadline. But as you can see, it is local date and time type. So we need to change it to another type, which is a local date. So we use a built-in function to change our local date and time deadline to a local date. And now we have the date of our deadline, and now we are ready to compare it to a first day and a last day. So we again write a new if block, and what we need to check first of all is if our deadline date is bigger and equal to the first day of month. And again, we also need to check if it is less than a last day. But we need both these statements to be true, so we combine them with AND block. And if a deadline date is bigger than the first day of month, and if a deadline date is less than a last day date, what we do, we now add our task to the collection, which is actually a to-do list on our form. And after we will add this task to our collection, it will be displayed on our form. So let's now try to save and publish our application to see if this code block is working properly. And now when our application has been published, we can open it, go to the Managing to-do list page, and now selecting a managing period equal to this month and clicking on a Show Tasks button, what we see is actually our tasks which have a deadline in this month. Great, and now let's move back to our function and let's write a same block but for a custom period. And now what we need to do, we need to compare our deadline date again. So we will need this variable value too. So we can drag it out to the if block. And now we will use it in this if block too. So in our case now, we need to compare our deadline date value. So we get it. If it is bigger and equal than our custom period date from, so we get it from our item and date from value, and if it is bigger than this date from, and in case our deadline date is less than a date to, so we change the same block and get the value for a custom period date to. So if our deadline date is in the period specified with these two fields, what we do, we create a new if block, and if it is true, we again add those tasks into our to-do list collection. So let's now save and publish our application to test this block of code. And now we open our application again. We move to the Managing to-do list page, and here let's try to specify some custom period, and let's check if it works for some dates in June. I mean. And now clicking on Show Tasks, as you can see, we have only those which have deadlines in a period we have specified. But we have some trouble because now if we will change at this month and click on Show Tasks, it will add the tasks to already existing collection. And what we need to do, we need to, don't forget to clear our collection before adding some values. So on each click on this button, we will clear the collection on our page, which is a to-do list. So now let's save and publish it again to see if this works. So now we can finally open our application, go to the Managing page, and here selecting period for this month, we see all the tasks with a deadline in July, and changing it to some custom period in June, for example. Let's select some specific dates, and clicking on this button, we see a wholly new collection with tasks which deadlines are in this custom period. Great! I hope this video was really helpful for you and your experience with working with custom time filters will be better for now. Thanks for watching. Bye!